Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Dewey, and I have the privilege of serving as DLA Piper's U.S. Pro Bono partner. Wow, thank you. I love the Women's Summit. I am really absolutely delighted to announce the inaugural DLA Piper Pro Bono LeadHer Award. An award to recognize a leader with whom we've had the opportunity to work as part of our pro bono program. We know that the theme of this year's summit is maximizing the moment, value through connection. We see the value of connection and collaboration every day as part of our pro bono program. We make it a priority to collaborate with our corporate clients, in-house counsel, legal services providers, thought leaders on access to justice, and community leaders. Those who inspire us through their courage, their compassion, and their commitment to making the world a better place. But we know, and all of us know, all of us in the room, us women, that we cannot do any of this alone. To be successful, we need to collaborate. This award is an opportunity for us to recognize a leader, someone with whom we've had the opportunity to collaborate. Leaders that are promoting access to justice, rule of law, and women's advancement. And more than anything, these are leaders that are giving our most vulnerable clients, our pro bono clients, and us hope. We are really fortunate at DLA Piper because we have a pro bono team of talented lawyers, and I want to recognize those who are here today. Annie Garrity Helms, who's our pro bono counsel and director of U.S. pro bono programs, and Sarah Andrews, who's our director of New Perimeter, our nonprofit affiliate focused on global pro bono work. We're now going to show a short video that's going to give you some background about our pro bono LeadHer awardee, and then Annie Helms is going to come to the podium and introduce the Honorable Vanessa Ruiz. We're so pleased she's here with us today. So, thank you.
The IAWJ is an organisation of women judges. We're from all levels of the judiciary throughout the world. We are dedicated to the goals of gender equality, access to justice, and more generally, human rights for all. Prior to the exit of the United States from Afghanistan, Afghan women judges had attended our conferences. From that, we got a major admiration for the women judges of Afghanistan.
I was particularly moved by the struggle that these women had to actually become judges and lawyers as well.
These women were part of the nation building, an important part of the nation building in Afghanistan over the past 20 years. They were committed to the rule of law and to human rights, including, of course, the rights of women and girls.
When Zakiya was assassinated, I was just devastated. She was just this young, bright light, and I knew then that something had profoundly changed.
They just begged us to help save them because the Taliban was advancing and they were scared that they were going to be killed. We started trying to get media attention to their plight, which is one of the things that they had asked us to do. And I think on the 14th of August, I had given 3 or 4 media interviews, and in that I was saying, you know, we have to get help to these women before Kabul falls. And most of those interviews never saw the light of day, because when I woke up the next morning, Kabul had fallen.
We didn't ever think that the Taliban will come to capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, in just 1 day or 2 days. On that Sunday, 15 August, we went to our office as usual. We were immediately told we were being let to go from our jobs.
After the final withdrawal of foreign troops, it was left to civil society, to the NGO community, to arrange a search for visas around the world so that these courageous women and their families could be safe in a final destination and ready to contribute to the country that they'd chosen, and also really to prepare for being able to have influence back home in Afghanistan.
Look at the help that has been given to us. Look at what D.L. Piper has done. Look at all of the lawyers that have stepped up to help the judges in sort of countless ways.
Yesterday, there was 1 or 2 judges got out to Pakistan, and we had a meeting with potentially new countries that will take the women.
We would not have felt that we were being true to our values and true to the values of the IAWJ if we had stood back and not helped our sister judges who were in such need in Afghanistan.
All of my kids are girls, and it will be a nightmare, and it will be a scary time for me to see that my girls cannot attend the school after the age of 12. Of course, it's very hard to accept that we lost everything that we had in less than 1 hour. But the greater picture is that we have lost a whole generation of female lawyers, judges, professionals, and academic of all kinds. We are the place that's not the place that they can live anymore because of the threat of Taliban.
We've been operating one family at a time. We tell ourselves that to save one life is to save the world, but we don't really believe that. We won't be happy until we manage to save all of the judges.
As Lisa said, I'm Annie Helms, and I have the great privilege to serve as U.S. Director and Counsel for Pro Bono Programs at DLA Piper. And I'm very honored today to be introducing you all to Judge Vanessa Ruiz, who is here to accept our inaugural LeadHer Award. Judge Ruiz is an extraordinary woman who I've had the good fortune of getting to know through DLA Piper's pro bono work with the International Association of Women Judges over the past year. I can spend some time telling you all about her impressive career. She's a senior judge on the DC Court of Appeals, former major law firm partner, former corporation counsel, aka Attorney General for the District of Columbia. She's argued in front of the US Supreme Court in a pro bono case. But those accomplishments only begin to describe who she is. As I know you will hear when you hear from her in just a moment, she's also a person of great integrity. She is someone who approaches her work with enthusiasm, grace, patience, humor, compassion, and good judgment. As are all of the judges who make up the IAWJ's Afghan Support Committee, she's also fiercely dedicated to advancing the rights of women and the rights of women judges in particular around the world. The Afghan Women's Committee of the IAWJ is comprised from judges, including several who you saw in the video today, who have been working continuously on behalf of their Afghan sister judges. For more than a year,
They have worked with those judges fleeing Afghanistan to navigate a complex and confusing global migration system. And let me tell you, having this group, the IWJ Support Committee, of fiercely loyal, tough, and tenacious women judges in your corner in a time of need is no small thing. I know I speak for everyone at DLA Piper to say what an honor it has been to work alongside the IWJ, offering legal assistance to judges where we're able, and to play one part in the committee's considerable efforts. Judge Ruiz, we are so happy to have you here to accept the award on behalf of the IWJ Afghan Support Committee. And I'm very pleased to share with everyone as well that in honor of the award, the firm will be making a donation to the fund that the IWJ created to help their Afghan women sister judges. Thank you so much for all you do. And I'll say just that the award reads, this award is presented to the International Association of Women Judges Afghan Support Committee in recognition of the committee's unwavering and extraordinary efforts to support their Afghan sister judges and their families.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa and Annie, for your introductions and for this really incredible award, which I accept humbly and with gratitude on behalf of the IAWJ Afghan Support Committee. We're humbled by it, but we understand that it is a recognition of the importance of the efforts we have been making to ensure the rescue and resettlement of women judges, of the women judges of Afghanistan. Those efforts are ongoing as we speak, and they will of necessity continue, as I will explain in a little bit. I read with interest the program for this conference: networking, innovation, dealing with crises, and the use of technology, and boldness in meeting these challenges, and of collaboration, as was mentioned earlier. I smiled because I think that intuitively, that is exactly what our committee has been faced with, dealing with an unexpected challenge for which we had not been prepared and for which we had zero experience. Last year, there were about 270 women judges in Afghanistan. Most became educated in law and entered the judiciary during the 20 years since 2001, when the Taliban was expelled, or so we thought, from the country. As we know now, they have come back with a vengeance. These women were at the forefront of change in a profoundly conservative society that traditionally had no regard for the rights of women and little time or resources for the education and encouragement of girls. That some women in that situation became judges, committed to the rule of law, and embraced ideas of human rights, including for women and girls, of course, was a spectacular achievement. The judiciary was male-dominated and bound by old ways, so it was never easy for them, and threats were a constant. Some left for court in the morning, unsure they would be returning to their families that night. Yet, they did it. IAWJ has members in over 100 countries and more than 50 member associations, and we supported the formation of the Afghan Association of Women Judges. Most people would say, what? There was an actual association of women judges in Afghanistan? Yes, there was. And they became a part of our global network. And beginning in 2004, for 10 years, we undertook a judicial education and cultural exchange program between the Afghan judges and judges in the U.S. Each year, a small selected group came to Vermont in Washington, D.C., where they met in intimate groups with U.S. judges and observed court proceedings. When in D.C., they met with U.S. Supreme Court judges, justices, and other high government officials. They were engaged, thoughtful, and truly courageous. Things radically changed last year. As you saw, in January of last year, 2 women judges were assassinated on their way to the Supreme Court at Kabul. I should explain that judges work at and for the Supreme Court, women judges, but there has never been a woman on the Afghan Supreme Court. But one of our members, Judge Anisa Rassooli, who is referred to as the RBG of Afghanistan, has twice been nominated. The killers of those 2 women judges were never identified. 3 months later, in May, as we were having our biennial conference, including a panel on the situation in Afghanistan, a bomb exploded outside a school where boys attend classes in the morning and girls in the afternoon. The bomb was timed to go off by the gate just when the girls were leaving school, with predictable consequences. Things went from bad to worse, and the Taliban, as we know, took over in August when the US and allied forces left the country. You've seen 3 of our committee members in the introductory video. Judge Patricia Whalen, who is in Vermont, is a former member in the War Chamber of the War Crimes Chamber for Bosnia. Justice Susan Glazebrook, New Zealand Supreme Court. Justice Mona Lynch, Supreme Court of Nova Scotia. 3 others you did not see are Judge Anissa Danji in the UK, Judge Gloria Poyatos Matas in Spain, the Canary Islands, and Judge Robin Tupman in Australia, and yours truly. This group came together prompted by need. We assumed that as soon as the Taliban took over, governments would immediately see the great peril the women judges faced from the Taliban, and that they would act expeditiously to move them to safety. They were not only at great personal risk to themselves and their families due to their association with us and the US, and the embrace of what are seen as Western values. They also embodied a huge investment that had been made by our countries and in their development. But that assumption, that expectation we had, never came true. The cavalry never appeared. So we knew that we were it. The Afghan judges turned to us for help. They knew us, we had contact over the years. They told us of their fears for themselves, their families, their country. Many have very young children. This was, as you heard, an all-volunteer effort. We used family and friends as resources. We were witnesses through live, WhatsApp, and now Signal communications to harrowing evacuations, canceled flights, shifting exit requirements from the Taliban. We were and are in constant contact with the Afghan judges in various stages of their journeys out. We have done what judges rarely do, media outreach, so that we could be the voice for the Afghan judges who felt that no one knew about them or cared about them. So we tried to amplify their voices, be their voice to the international community. We set up at the beginning a 24-hour Zoom meeting from our dining rooms, literally 24 hours a day. My husband, David, who is here, suffered through many nights when you could hear the chatter. One of the advantages of being an international association like ours is that you can cover all time zones. So it was literally going 24 hours a day. We were not, as I said, prepared for this, and we could not have done this alone. There have been indispensable partners. Our principal interpreter, Farah, who has not only language skills, but cultural understanding. She has been with us since those judicial education programs in the early 2000s. And in addition, she has personal experience with persecution in Iran. Aleph a faith-based humanitarian group. We've worked with on-the-ground operational groups. I mean, who else knows about evacuations, right? Vets. A world totally foreign to us. Critically, pro bono legal advice to IAWJ and the Afghan judges. What DLA Piper has done, Lisa and Annie and your colleagues, is remarkable. They have organized a whole army of volunteer lawyers to represent the judges and their families with immigration issues in the U.S., but also in other countries where the firm has offices. This is hard, painstaking work, one at a time kind of work. The firm's organizing effort is done in close collaboration on weekly calls with immigration counsel to the IAWJ at Fried Frank and with our committee. This is constant talk, a weekly call, but a lot of emails also. So where are we now? Of the 270 judges, 200 have been evacuated. So they are at least not in Afghanistan. Some remain in what are referred to as lily pads. Those are third countries where they wait for processing of their visas to a permanent home. They are in Pakistan, in Greece, in the UAE, in Brazil. There's one in Iceland. Of greatest concern to us, of course, are the 70 families that still remain trapped in Afghanistan. Conditions are dire in Afghanistan for everybody. There's a collapsing economy, there are food shortages, winter is coming. For the women judges in particular, there are continuing threats. Understand that everything a woman judge is, what she represents, is anathema to the Taliban. The judges embody what the Taliban believe a woman should not be or do. To a mindset where women's domain is limited to the home and under male domination, they breached the norm by daring to hold public positions with real authority. These women judges have tried, convicted, and sentenced members of the Taliban and ISIS for crimes of corruption, terrorism, drug trafficking, and unspeakable violence against women. They are not safe. They have no life. Everything has been taken from them and their daughters overnight. The criminals they sentenced were released from prison last year, and they're out for personal revenge. I cannot begin to imagine what that must feel like. There are some bright spots, and I don't want to leave you thinking that all is dire. As I said, 200 have been rescued. And over 100 judges and families have been resettled. And we have babies, because, as I said, many of these judges are fairly young. Quickly. The UK, there are 17 families have been resettled, 2 babies. Canada, 33 families, 2 babies. New Zealand, 6 families, no babies so far. Australia, 17 families and 2 babies. Ireland, 10 families and 3 babies. Spain, 8 families. Germany, 5 families. In the US, as of today, there are 18 families and 1 baby. As we speak, 1 is flying from Emirates Humanitarian City, a detention center in the UAE. She will touch down at O'Hare Airport later this afternoon en route to San Antonio, where her sister arrived 3 weeks ago. I can tell you the last few weeks have been a source of constant anxiety because she is pregnant and nearing the date when she will not be able to fly. She sends me her ultrasounds. I talked to the Department of State. I called the airline to see what their guidelines were. It's like I feel like a midwife. And this has happened with others in various countries. So it's been, as you can tell, This is personal to us. This is personal to us. We try to establish a network of judges and lawyers who will be there to welcome the judges when they arrive in a new country. There are many challenges going forward. There's a need for passports and visas for evacuation, even for newborns. Delays and costs of obtaining these documents for every family member can hold up a scarce opportunity to leave. There's a constant search for resettlement. The doors, frankly, have been closed. We are hopeful of a pathway to the United States, but U.S. refugee processing does not begin until a person is in the third country, until you have left Afghanistan, and that takes time, and it is very expensive to move people and to keep them supported in a third country. And we deal with donor fatigue, so thank you, DLA Piper, for your contribution. It's very important. And with just inattention, the world's attention has shifted to Ukraine and other problems. And unfortunately, we have found that Ukrainian refugees have seen doors opened and welcome signs, and that has not been true for the Afghans. So our committee continues to be committed to supporting our sister judges. We are really persistent and stubborn women. We have managed to continue with our judicial duties, and frankly, we have brought our judicial skills to this task. And as our committee member from Spain always says in Spanish, seguimos, we continue. For the last year, it's been an intense year, we have formed incredible bonds of friendship and sisterhood among the members of our committee and with our Afghan sister judges. And we have developed partnerships with generous and caring lawyers such as DLA Piper. I want to show you a picture, if it could be shown, please, on the screen. I will end with that, because I think it captures what this is about. The picture is from 2009, and it is in my chambers in Washington, D.C. You won't recognize me because my hair color is quite different. On one side of me, with the light blue veil, is Judge Zakia Harawi. She was assassinated last year in January of 2021. On the other side of me, in the purple, is Camila Nouri. She is safely in the U.S. with her family. I was with her with Camila this past weekend, where she spoke movingly at a fair in the D.C. area about the hard path for refugees, but also the promise of coming to a country like the U.S. She's represented by lawyers at DLA Piper. She told me her asylum claim was filed last month. She recently interviewed for a position with a law firm. She's waiting for the second round of interviews. She is determined, and she is optimistic, and she is grateful, as am I and the whole committee. Thank you, DLA Piper, and I thank you, all of you, who give of your time for pro bono efforts. Thank you.